This is a Series 612 tube and battery tester. And if it sounds like I know what I'm talking about, it's simply because I know how to read. I found this at a thrift shop. It is, of course, damaged and in a non-working state. At minimum, the cord has not only come loose, but is extremely frayed. I have a replacement for that. First thing I wanted to show is it comes with a manual of sorts. So I have no idea what any of this means yet. I do have to look it up, but it's nice to have. But what I really like about it is the other side. An ideal gift for Christmas. And they're self-assembly radios. Paco Electronics Co. Inc. A fun bit of history. So I have to assume that these outer screws are what are holding the base in. And everything on here looks fine except for the one missing lever knob. I'll start with taking out these screws first and see what's inside, and then find out where that cord is going and see if we can put it in a replacement. Alright, minor issue. The battery leads are larger than the holes that were drilled for them, which means they were inserted and then soldered to the body. And I have to figure out how to get those out without damaging too much. Let's just take a quick look at how pretty this is. So I don't know if this tube still works. I have to assume it does. Didn't realize it had a tube in it. As always, I'm learning as I go. I do see a couple of wax capacitors, which do give me some concern. Lots of braided wire. I do have a date over here on this beam. It just says 17 by 71155. Not certain what the 17 means, but I'm pretty certain the 71155 is July 11th, 1955. Pretty neat. This is the original power cord. It's tied up in knots with these two battery connectors. I can clip them off and resolder them on, which I think is what's going to happen. I don't really have an alternative for that. Everybody remember where we parked. One of the things you have to contend with when repairing anything is what level of intrusion you want to have. And a lot of people don't like when you intrude too much, change too much. But everything in a thing's history adds to that history. So if you add to its history, you're not changing its previous history, you're just updating it. So in my case, you probably can't see it from there. I just wrote R and B so that I know if I can't get to this in the next day or two, I don't forget where the red and the black wires go. This power pole up here is not polarized. It shouldn't be. The cable itself wasn't. As you can tell, both prongs are the same size, so it's a non-polarized plug. Which means it doesn't matter which side of this I clip, but I'm going to take them both off. I'm going to set this aside for a minute. I think I'm going to work on the box. So at some point in the past, this chunk broke out. Half the hinges are missing. I have to get replacements for those. But I think I can cut a new piece of wood for this and get it in there without too much difficulty. And I can install a new hinge. The rubber feet are pretty good. They're actually more plastic than rubber, I think, so they may have survived the long years. But the case itself is very scratched up and does need a little bit of work. Doesn't look like it made much of a difference, does it? That begs the question, though, and this is actually something I've been debating on. How much of this history do I want to remove? Like stains and things like that, that's fine. I'm 100% behind removing any kind of stains or dirt. But these scratches give it character. And I do want to resurface this. I want to get rid of what I have to assume is coffee or battery stains right here. And there's a couple of marker spots that could go away. So I am going to sand it. But a few of these gouges are a little deep. Especially this one. A bunch of these back here. I don't mind them. They don't bother me. I would like to refinish it, which is going to change their color. So I am going to sand it, but the question I have, and so a question for you, to mull about as you like, if you ever restore or repair anything, how much are you going to fix it? I don't want it looking brand new. I want to dab a little bit of character. So, for that, just clean off the top layer. Maybe get rid of some of the dust inside. Let's see how it goes. I haven't really restored anything like this before, so I might do too much or not enough. If you were wondering how hard that was thrown, it's out of focus, but that dent wasn't there before. So on the way out, it hit something hard enough to put a ding in it. If that had hit me, well, I'd be very unhappy right now, to say the least. That's why I use a bandsaw for stuff like this. If this wood glue is any indicator, it suggests someone already tried to fix this once. Guess that means I have to try to do a better job. Other than doing this by hand, I think I might actually go use the bandsaw. That's what I got it for. For those who might be wondering, it took a few tries. And that's okay. I kind of had to dial it in. Mostly because the original piece didn't break straight, and I didn't feel like standing this flat. So this piece actually has to be crooked. So making a perfectly straight piece did not help me. But just a reminder that sometimes it takes a few attempts to get what you need done. Though I may have mentioned it earlier, I think this is a pine box. I'm not 100% certain. This is pine wood, so I'm going to do pine and hopefully pine. If not, this piece doesn't have to be perfect by any means because of a couple of reasons. It's in the back, it will be hidden up against stuff, and it's just there to hold the hinge on, if I can make that work. So I think I will glue and maybe countersink a couple of tiny screws into this just to make sure it stays. So I think these will work. Still out of focus, but they're just finishing screws. And I can get them flush and it shouldn't, hopefully shouldn't break this. I'm going to try to make sure by drilling a pilot hole. I'm not really going to measure it out. I'm going to go for somewhere in between the two original spots for the old screws. I got some new hinges. I did a test fit. If I align the holes with the top, it actually sits about right there in the center of this beam. So I'm going to drop these here and here in order to strengthen this bar, keep it from breaking. That's my hope anyway. That is not what I wanted. Thankfully it's in the back, so some easy fix. Let's try the other one. Not that that's a good idea, but let's try it anyway. They're both warping slightly, a little bit of cracking on both sides. Again, this is going to be the back, so it's less important, but I was hoping to get a cleaner insert. This one curved harder than this one did, but I can feel it in there. Probably be a little less bad if I had shorter screws. These are 2-inch screws. I don't have anything short enough that's also flush, unfortunately. Might have to rethink this a little bit. These can be fixed. A little bit of glue, just press them back into place. Shouldn't be too big of a deal, but I don't know. See if I have some pins or something. I'm not too worried about the 2 holes I just drilled because, again, not that big a deal. It'll all be hidden in the back. Some people may not have liked the way I did that. Might look uncouth. Felt uncouth, actually. But with it being screwed in halfway and then trimmed off the top, if you didn't know any better, could you tell that these weren't pin nails? Probably not. So I'm going to call that good. I do have to trim up these sides a little bit, get them nice and squared out. I'm going to do that off camera simply because I have to handle the box more delicately than I have been in order to get that nice and clean and not scratch this up too much. I am going to sand all this off anyway, but I want to at least make it even first. So let's get the box cleaned up.
Battery died. Plus it's really hot out here, so this is very, very warm. I think I'll let it cool down for a while, and then I'll finish this up off camera, because I only have the edges to do now. Looking pretty good.
So I'm going to try shellacking this. And as I've never done it before, don't know how it's going to turn out. Watched a lot of tutorials that tells you how to do this, but they all want you to thin it out, keep it safe, separate it out. I don't have time or the room for that. So I'm just going to do it raw. Alright, in the last minute or two I just learned a lot of things. One, don't be frugal. You want a lot because it starts to get sticky real fast. And two, you want to start from the top with your heavily loaded rag and then work your way down so that you don't have to deal with sticky drips. Because once they get sticky, they're hard to get rid of. So in this case, the front's not very good because I didn't learn that fast enough. So I'm going to try to do another coat on there. Start from the top. Nice thick rag. Work my way down. Make sure it's smooth, or as smooth as I can make it considering, and then be done. We're going to add some wax. Never done this part before either, but it's supposed to add a protective layer. We'll try to do what's called a French polish, basically rub it until it's shiny. We'll see how that goes out. See if I can make it even or not.
So I'm wondering if I can reuse this. Not the cable. The cable is... I can't even get this thing centered. Where is it? Right there. The cable is absolutely shot. 100%. I'm not certain if that's wrapped or if it's aluminum wire, but either way, it's gone. But this down here, might be able to reuse this. And I already took a quick peek through the cardboard. And it does have two Phillips head, flathead, two flathead screws. So I like this plug because it's the original plug and it's very basic in its design, non-polarized. And I have this replacement, which may look extremely old, just looking at the paper and everything. It looks very old. However, this was purchased very recently. Copyright on here says 2001 though. It may seem old to some people, but this looks 1960s, 1970s to me, even though it's 2001. And it's for appliances. If I can, I might be able to cut the wires out and use them in this, and that should do the same thing. I just like these because even though it just came off the shelf, it looks old. Even the UL tested sticker looks like it's seen better days. It's already yellowed. Bought brand new like 3 days ago. Alright, I'm turning this camera a little bit because I can't even right now. Trying to do this without like creating a short or a sparking situation. Thankfully, Bakelite's non-conductive. I hope. Cardboard, the ultimate insulator. Now the only reason I'm doing this with this particular device is because it won't be used that much. It is a tube tester. It's not going to be on all the time, not going to be playing radio stations all the time. So plugging it in every once in a while, having it on for a little while, should not cause me any kind of physical malfunction. Otherwise I would have gone with the more modern, safer cord. But I like this cord, and with the low voltages that this is going to be running at, not really, it's testing tubes, it's going to be high voltage anyway. But with the low amount of time it's going to be running, this is okay. But I wouldn't do this with an actual radio. I'd replace it with a more modern cord, because this is going to be plugged into a wall. Now on the radio it's going to be plugged into a wall 99% of the time. You're never going to see it. So having something that looks aesthetically classic is pointless to me. But this one's going to be inside a box, so it'll be aesthetically pleasing. Because of how fiddly this is going to be soldering these wires back in, I'm going to do this off camera. I almost forgot about the fuse. I've already taken the fuse out of this. It's just a 1 amp fuse, at least that's what was already in there, but I wanted to show this. So that's an old school trick right there to make a fuse connect better. A little bit of bubble gum, tin foil. That was jammed in there with it. Don't know if that helped or hurt, but this fuse is gone. So, we're going to put in a new one.
Now, if you ever need parts for anything old, don't know why I keep saying fur. It's for. If you need parts for anything old, I always check my local auto body place, auto shop place. I always have something that I can use. In this case, a 1 amp fuse. You can see why they thought it didn't fit very well. Bit of a loose connection in there. Spin it a little bit, it gets tighter. Alright, and the flux capacitor is fluxing. I guess at this point it's time to test to see if it works. I have some tubes lying around, but I have not studied how to make this function, and I don't want to blow the tube or damage this. But as I understand it, if you just turn it on, it will give you something. That's my hope. Of course, I have to do it at a plug that's close enough to what I'm doing here. Give me a minute. We're going to start with release the magic smoke test. We're going to plug it in. We're going to see if anything comes out of it that shouldn't. Hopefully, worst case, the fuse blows. Well, not entirely certain it's supposed to be on yet. Oh, it was on to begin with. Oops, my bad. So line off, line on. Well, it turns on. I'll call that a success. As for using it to test tubes, that is something that will have to wait, simply because I do have some radios that I want to repair. I would love to test the tubes on them, see if this thing works 100%. But that's going to wait for a future date. So for now, I'll call this one done.